All right, guys, we've got an update on the Washington Commanders stadium situation. It says Commanders Stadium options where things stand right now in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia, with possibly Virginia emerging as the number one option for a potential super stadium that would cost around $3 billion. Virginia will offer the best deal for the new potential Commanders stadium, according to a report that coming out yesterday. Washington, D.C. councilman makes his case for new Commanders stadium, and you can see other reports. The Commanders are looking for a new home, and there has been a lot of chatter about where the new home will be. DC, Maryland, and Virginia have all made pitches for a new football stadium. Now the new ownership is offering some fresh insight. A confidential document prepared by the Josh Harris Group, obtained by ESPN, says the Commonwealth will offer the best incentive package for a new Commanders stadium. Harris leads the group that has agreed to purchase the team for $6 billion. And guys, just like my speculation, this whole Commanders new stadium saga has been in kind of a standstill because of the murky ownership exchange. That's the number one thing that's going to be taken care of before the new stadium. If they had a stable ownership group, I'm guessing the new stadium would already be planned and possibly be opening in 2025 or 2026, but it's been put on hold due to the entire Dan Snyder thing. Now that that is resolved, now that Josh Harris is the owner of the Commanders, purchasing them for $6 billion, which is a lot of money. They are one of the most valuable franchises in the NFL, even though they have not been good recently. It's looking like the Commanders' new stadium could be in Northern Virginia. A 43-page document was prepared by the Harris Group to lure potential investors needed to finance the deal to buy the team. According to ESPN, the document predicts the removal of Snyder as the team's owner will boost the team's prospects for a new stadium, and that Virginia will offer $1.5 billion for the potential new stadium. But some Virginia leaders don't agree with that price tag, including a state senator saying that there are more important things to focus on than football, and that's, of course, the ebb and flow. How much, are you going to get in taxes? How much is Josh Harris going to pony up for this? If they do get $1.5 billion from Virginia, I mean, you're talking about over a $3 billion super stadium, the entire surrounding area being built up as well. The renderings that you are seeing, well, there's actually two different set of renderings, both when Dan Snyder was owner. The first one is kind of like a similar to a Madden type futuristic outdoor stadium that never really seemed realistic. If you guys can actually look at some of those renderings, I don't know who comes up with this crap. They've got someone surfing on a wave right next to the stadium and they have people grappling. I know it's just a rendering, but it's like, did you ask some type of generator to do like I don't know, how is this realistic? It's just kind of funny. And then you can see, yes, they're doing some ice skating there in the winter right next to the stadium, but that was the first design that they had. And you can see the futuristic looking kind of curved round. To me, that's not a good design, honestly. The upper deck is far too large. It's very bland, but that was their first design for a potential new stadium. And then they came out with this new design, possibly in Northern. That first design was in Oxon Hill, Maryland. That was the first design's location. This newer one, which is not the Josh Harris Group design, this is still Dan Snyder. This comes out a few years later, and they say it's going to be the biggest stadium with a color-changing roof, the biggest color-changing roof in the NFL. And it does look pretty cool. Looking at that rendering, you can kind of see they were trying to build a new football practice minicamp area in and around it. This was part of a $3 billion package. And you can just see it there at night, kind of lit up. I tell you what, that does look very nice. I'm impressed by something like that. I like the moon as well. That's a nice little, you get a nice full moon. I like that. When you're dealing with renderings, you got to make them perfect. The stadium glistening in the Commanders' colors. That's a nice vibe. And then they kind of came out with these other renderings, and it made it look like, if you guys know, the New Orleans Caesars Superdome, which was the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, that's exactly what these renderings look like now. But I have to stress again, this is not Josh Harris, his group, the new owner. These are not his renderings. So I predict what's going to happen, and we can talk about the timeline, because there's a report saying this new stadium's not coming until 2031, which I find ridiculously hard to believe based on their current stadium situation. Every stadium person agreeing that FedEx Field right now is the worst stadium in the NFL. The idea that you're going to play at FedEx Field until 2031, it's not happening. I guarantee you that will not happen. We're going to talk about that report that came out. But just looking at these renderings, yeah, it looks like the Superdome. Well, you know what? Maybe that's just it during the day and it's not lit up. And then this is the new report that I was talking about. Commanders rumored new stadium being built by 2031, viewed as too optimistic. So they're saying even by 2031, it's optimistic. We're only in 2023 right now. You could get a design together, you could get everything together and break ground on this thing easily by 2026 and open by 2029. The idea that 2031 is too optimistic seems a little ridiculous. A source with intimate knowledge of the complications and dynamics in getting a stadium built believes that 2031 is too optimistic for the Commanders' new stadium, given that the team has no site, no deal, and no financing. Well, I mean, they're kind of contradicting themselves if this report is true, that Virginia is offering $1.5 billion. And you know what? I'm guessing Virginia is there's a lot of incentive around the idea that the state of Virginia would want to have an NFL team, even if it's technically DC's team. Virginia is the biggest state, I believe, based on population, that does not have any four major sports teams in the United States. There's no NFL team, there's no MLB, there's no NHL, there's no NBA in Virginia. That's why I think the MLB needs to expand to Virginia Beach, but that's another story. But they're saying the Harris Group is believed to not have the ability to write a check for a new stadium like other owners have done in the past. So that seems a little preposterous to me. The dude bought the team for $6 billion. I believe the Harris Group also owns the 76ers, especially if they're already getting $1.5 billion. You'd think they'd at least be able to match that, at least you would hope. But either way, that is the current situation. In the interim, the Commanders plan to make changes to FedEx Field. See, that's just such it's a waste of money. That is a waste of money. There's no reason to make any changes to FedEx Field. It is a dump. The next renovation that FedEx Field should be receiving is a wrecking ball to the upper deck. I mean, that place, it's a disaster. It's done. You need to put all your focus on a new stadium, and if you're an owner, you shouldn't be buying an NFL team if you cannot afford to pay for a new stadium, understanding the Commanders' situation where it's dire. I mean, there is no renovating FedEx Field. It's a dump. It's like some type of bacteria has eaten the entire upper deck away. It's disgusting. You're wasting money, dumping stuff into that. I don't see a point to it. It is crap. So hopefully they can work on the new stadium and get a deal in place, but it is seeming like there are some complications with it, and you can just kind of see the overall football and community aspect of it. I'm guessing this deal is going to get done sooner. The idea that you would dump $200 million into FedEx Field, there's no point, man. There's no point. Just get the new stadium. Invest the $200 million into the new stadium, not into stadium upgrades for FedEx. It's already a dump. It cannot be saved, but maybe that's what they'll end up doing. That surprises me a lot. But you get kind of these interesting deals where a team is going for a new stadium. the stadium that they're playing in currently is so bad, it needs immediate renovation, but because they're trying to finance a new stadium, there's really no point in renovating their current stadium, even though it desperately needs it. This is the whole Oakland Coliseum issue, right? This is the dynamic of why put $200 million into the Coliseum? The place is a dump. You know, why knock down Mount Davis even though there's no football there anymore? That's a waste of money, I guess. But either way, that is the current update on the Washington Commanders' new stadium. Northern Virginia right now making a push and offering up some money for a stadium, but there are complications. There are lawmakers in Virginia that say, no, this is ridiculous. It's a waste. We don't need to be spending this money on a team that's not even ours because it is D.C., it is Washington, so either way, there's a lot of complications with it. And then I did quickly want to mention this. We have the Buffalo Bills' new stadium. Well, it has officially broke ground. Early stages of construction at the site for the new Bills Stadium in full swing. So this stadium, its timeline is working out perfectly. It's scheduled to open in 2026, and with them breaking ground here in mid-2023, it seems like that is going to happen. You can see just very, very early construction photo released on the new stadium there. That is the biggest project that's ever been done in the upstate northern New York area. So that is a big deal for them. And they are going with a bit of a canopy stadium design. Tennessee is the other team that was thought to have maybe had a stadium coming in 2026. The stadium is coming, but I do believe it got pushed back to 2027 based off of some funding issues. The Titans stadium is significantly more costly because it has a translucent see-through roof. I believe Tennessee's is about $500 million more because of that roof. Buffalo actually got their stadium cost down to 1.54 billion was the actual number. The original estimate was 1.8, and then they pushed it down. So that is coming for the Bills in 2026. And the most unique thing about it, and it's something, you know, I'm sure in 30 years we're going to be talking about the Bills possibly having the last fully open stadium. You know, it's possible based on how all these things are doing it. You know, you're very rarely going to see an NFL team build a stadium that is completely open like the Buffalo Bills are doing. Yes, they do have a little bit of an overhang, but still, the idea that it's open is a very rare thing, and it's going to be a very unique thing with all of these super stadium domes going up in the NFL. Either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.